Hello and welcome, friends. I'm glad you're here. Sorry for the delay on this video. I was in a bit of the doldrums, if you will, just surviving. But here we are, Curse of Strahd, another level of survival. Let's see, where did we end off last time? Last time, our heroes entered Barovia, followed the old Asphalic road, and ended up in the village of Barovia. And we'll put that map here. They ended up meeting Strahd von Zarovich, the ruler of this land. And they took him to the Blood on the Vine Tavern, where our friends, our heroes, I should say, met Ismark. And I think we'll just start it from there. So first things first, let's go ahead and grab our handy dandy notepad, our character sheets, and I went ahead and I printed out the letter that they discovered on the body of the courier. And open it up. First things first, I want to see if we can find this guy's name real quick. Not that our heroes will know it, but we will know it. And when I say we, I mean Ismark will know the corpse's name. Dalvin Olensky. Go ahead and flip this over. Take our pen. Courier. Dalvan Olensky. Perfect. I just want a place to remember that. And then our heroes entered the village and started talking to let's see here. So, when last we left off, our heroes mentioned that they had met Strahd von Zarovich, to which Ismark said, "Ah, you met the old devil, have you?" Our heroes will look at each other a little bit nervously. And Astrid says, what do you mean?" To which Ismark responds, "The old devil Strahd von Zarovich." And he looks at the Vistani nearby, and he kind of leans in, does a pretend chuckle. "Let me tell you a joke." And he leans in, and he says, "Strahd is a vampire. He rules this land. There's not much that we can do about it. And certainly you've seen the state of the village around you." And Sidaros will take out the note, kind of trying to be hidden about it. Let's see how well he does. We'll go ahead and roll a dexterity check to see how well he hides this note passing to Ismark. He's got a +0, so it's gonna be pretty bad, but we'll see. A 5. All right, so he clumsily passes this note to Ismark. Go ahead and roll a wisdom check for our Vistani. Let's see if they notice. 14, they do indeed notice the note passing, but do they know the importance of it? I do not know yet. So he hands the note over, and Ismark will pull it and pick it up. He reads over it briefly, and he sighs. He says, "Poor Dalvin. A courier sent by my father." And Dendor leans in. So, this Kolyan Indirovich, this is your father? To which Ismark says, indeed he is. And Ireena is my sister. Which I suppose this is as good a segue as any. I need your help. Marina leans in, and the party follows suit. And Ismark looks each one in the eye, and he says, Ireena, as the note has said, has been preyed upon by this Strahd von Zarovich, this vampire. And we need to get her away from here. The party kind of shifts uncomfortably. We're on board, of course, Astrid says. And Marina's definitely backs her up. And Dendor, actually, because they're all lawful. They all want to see Ireena is taken care of, and they don't want to see anybody suffering. Sidaro says, let's not be hasty, friends. We don't know anything about this vampire or this Ireena. We're just mapping the land. We don't necessarily need to get involved. And to which Marina glares at him, and Dendor says, of course we'll get involved. And he leans in, like, very close. Looks at the Vistani and says, I noticed the look you gave to them earlier. Are they not to be trusted? Ismark nods and does another fake laugh. Of course. And then he leans in. The Vistani work for Strahd as a general rule. One or two individually, you could get to know them perhaps, but the Vistani have and always will serve Strahd in this village. As long as he holds sway, he gives them special abilities from what I understand, though I do not know what they are. Not particularly. I know that they travel the mists is all. And the party nods, and Ismark feigns a yawn and stretches. Now, my friends, do you have a place to stay? And Marina says, no, we don't have any place to stay. This place is foreign to us. And Ismark says, then come, you will stay at the Burgomaster's mansion with me. Go ahead and gather your things. And he places some money on the table. And turns to the Vistani and says, this should about cover it, no? And they nod as they watch him go. And Ismark leads the way out of the tavern. And they begin walking into the street. And they can hear the crying coming from one of the houses. And they can see this mercantile. And kind of see this sparse light spilling out of the windows and the doorway. Kind of barely illuminates the sign that says Bildrath's. Bildrath's Mercantile. Let's see here. Now, so they come down, and there's this crying coming from this house here. A moaning sob floats through the still gray streets, coloring your thoughts with sadness. The sounds flow from a dark 2-story townhouse. Sidaros shivers. He says, what's the story here, friend? And Ismark kind of casts kind of a side eye at the building. And he says, that's Mary's house. The woman was raising a young daughter who we assume died in some fashion. We're not certain, but she's been sobbing this way for a week as they continue past. Now, will our heroes attempt to go talk to Mary? Find out. I think there's enough lawful ones in the party that I'll roll at advantage. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. A 12. That is a yes. So, our heroes stop. Astrid looks around. Marina says, I don't think that we can leave this person crying like this. If something happened with her daughter, perhaps we can console her. Console. Dummy. Perhaps we can console the poor woman. A kind word, maybe. So Marina, Astrid, and Dendor will march up to the house, Sidaros following suit. If a little bit begrudging in his movement. And Mark will look around, and he too will go ahead and move forward. And he'll knock on the door. Mary! Mary! And an only sobbing responds. And Ismark responds, and Ismark says, this is exactly the state she's been in for a week. No one can get in the house, and she's not willing to come out. I'm not even sure what she's eating in there, to be honest. All right. So what do we do here? We don't have a thief in the party, so... But we do have Sidaros with the knock spell, which I think is just fantastic. So, can the party convince Sidaros to cast his knock spell on the door to let themselves in? This is kind of pushing the boundaries a little bit of a civilized society, just kind of break into somebody's house. But, you know, this is a role-playing game, so we're just going to go with it. We rolled randomly. They said they were going to go in there. And let's see what happens. So, the party turns to Sidaros as they talk to each other. And Sidaros is like, oh no, friends, I don't think so. And I don't want to get involved in the first place. Casting a knock spell. And Astrid says, casting a knock spell to get through a door you're not supposed to isn't above you, Sidaros. And she kind of gives a wily grin. And Sidaros says, well, no, of course, but... Well, I just don't think we should get involved. Now, who has the best charisma? Sidaros has the best with Astrid following suit, so we'll have Astrid try to convince him. Now, he doesn't really want to do this. So there's two ways we can do this thing. We can either set it at a hard difficulty, requiring a DC 15, or we can do an opposed check, or perhaps some haggling. Let me double check the DCs real quick. Yeah, it would be a normal DC 12, but Sidaros doesn't want to get involved. We're going to make it a hard DC 15. Let's see, what can we do? I think we'll start with just a charisma check. Astrid will just kind of say pretty please and see if You can convince Sidaros to make to cast the spell. Let's find out. DC 15, here we go. A 15 exactly. Well done, Astrid. Perfect. Alright, so Astrid, this little halfling priestess of Saint Taragnus. She she turns on the charm as much as she can, talks up Sidaros a little bit, and Sidaros finally caves in and he says, "Fine. I'll cast Knock for just only because you asked nicely." Now that is a tier 2 spell, so the DC is 12. Let's go ahead and see how his spell casting check goes. Let's see, what's his bonus? Spell casting is +2. A natural 1. I'm going to go ahead and spend a luck token. For SoloDark, you get 1 per character. So we're going to go ahead and use a luck token. We're going to see if we can get rid of that 1. We don't want to explode the doorstep while we're trying to cast Knock. Let's see here. A 15 plus 2 is 17. That's more than enough. So Sidaros steps forward, waves his hands, and says the magic words. I don't have any magic words on the tip of my tongue. Rick'em rock'em, big'em knock'em. The sound of a loud knock on the door happens, and then they can hear the locking mechanism unlock there. And Sidaros just bows, and Astrid, kind of gives him a little clap as Marina pushes open the door, and the sobbing seems to be coming from the 2nd floor. So, our heroes enter the building and quickly find the stairs. The place is okay. It's not, basically everything is like fairly old, fairly used. But it's mostly clean, and you can see like the floor is taken care of basically. There might be a few things that are out of whack here and there now, but after a week of mourning, so the heroes will go up the stairs, and there they find poor Mary kneeling in the middle of a bedroom floor, sobbing to herself. Everybody turns to Ismark, and Ismark looks at them, and he nods once. Says, "Mary, it's Ismark," and he steps forward. He, with maybe some surprising gentleness, kneels down in front of her and carefully places a hand on her shoulder. And Mary, sobbing, tears streaming down her eyes, looks up at Ismark and breaks down into full-on sobs again, throws herself into Ismark's arms just to get some of that comfort from another person's physical being, essentially. Ismark gently wraps his arms around her, pats her back, and says, "What happened, Mary?" And between sobs, she says that her daughter, Gertruda, escaped the house a week ago. 1 week out in the town, the village of Barovia, and who knows from there on. Mary explains that she was afraid of of letting Gertruda out in the midst of the vampire attacks and wolf attacks and everything else. And so she had confined Gertruda to the house almost her entire life, essentially. And now Mary is convinced to become food for the wolves or vampires or some such. And she holds all that she has left of her is this malformed doll in her hand. Let's see here. Is the party touched by all of this? 16 is a yes. So Sidaros will gently, and also following Ismark's how would you say his lead? Following Ismark's lead, Sidaros will also kind of bend down and says, did the doll belong to the girl? And Mary will nod and shows it to him. Sidaros cringes a little bit as the malformed doll has a strange leer and wears a sackcloth dress. Mary says, it belonged to me once. I passed it down to Gertruda. Sidaros says, it might be possible if there's a spellcaster of some aptitude that we might be able to locate the young Gertruda using this doll. And Mary looks up, a little bit of hope maybe in her eyes. They're not sure. Her eyes are maybe a little bit dead, a little bit swollen from crying. And she hands it to Sidaros, who he'll take the doll, and we'll go ahead and add it to his inventory. Let's see. We'll just write down Gertruda's doll. There we go. Just trying to keep track of everything like we do. Speaking of keeping track, I've been doing a poor job of it in the journal here. So party Mary about Gertruda. Perfect. And then Ismark will take the party to meet Ireena. So, Astrid has some tears in her eyes as they speak to Gertruda, and they give her a little bit of food that they had, maybe perhaps left over from the Blood on the Vine Inn, and they promise her that if they learn of Gertruda in any way, that Mary will be the first to know. And the party quietly leaves. They lock the door behind them. Mary continues to sob, but perhaps a bit more quietly at this point. The party moves into the mist, and they continue on their path to the Burgomaster's mansion. Alright, let's see. Now, the road to the Burgomaster, as they're traveling down, there is an event here. And there's the dream pastry. So, as they're walking, let's see, does the dream pastry event begin? I'm going to go ahead and roll and see on the yes-no oracle. 20, very yes. All right. Alright, so the party is continuing down the path. And they're kind of talking amongst themselves, saying, kind of just talking about Mary and wondering how that they could go about looking for the child. Maybe they could do it in the morning. But they hear the sound of small wooden wheels rolling across damp cobblestone. Trace the lonely sound to a hunched figure bundled in rags pushing a rickety wooden cart through the fog. Alright, so the party spots this individual. Maybe she's making her way out of like an alleyway or something, coming maybe around this bend here, perhaps. And will the group stop to talk to the woman about any children in the area? I'm going to roll advantage on the yes-no oracle. I got a 17, a yes, but... What is the but in this instance? Right? Yes. Odds are a yes, but. So they will say yes. Go. And Sidaros is going to kind of take the back seat. Sidaros doesn't want to get involved. He's not going to be the face. So the but in this case is going to be that they can't use Sidaros's charisma bonus, and he's the most charismatic in the group at this point. So yeah, they'll go approach. Sidaros is going to kind of drag his feet, kind of stay behind, and Astrid frowns at him, and we'll leave it to Dendor, I think, at this point. Dendor or Marina to make the initial contact. So I think we'll go with Marina. And Marina says, "You there." And the old woman looks up, and she's kind of hunched over. Kind of gives this cackling voice. Let's see if I can pull this off. Yes, what do you want of old Morgantha? That was pretty good, right? It's gonna ruin my voice for the next week. I'm gonna get a drink of water real quick. Alright, let's continue to feel silly about using Morgantha's voice. Marina will bow slightly at the waist and just say, we mean no harm. We're just interested in a young girl that's gone missing." "Oh?" the old woman says, and she kind of takes a step back. And she's kind of giving these measured looks at them. She's kind of taking in the party. So we're going to see if anybody notices. And that's going to be a wisdom check, I think. Astrid's the best at it with a +3. Yep, but everybody else is pretty bad at it. Oh, I think it's all said and done, kind of a -1 situation. So we're going to roll. And we'll see if Astrid... I mean, I've been kind of like... what do you call it? Taking the average of the bonuses. So in this case, we have a +2 divided by 4. So that's going to be like -0.5. So it's just going to be a flat roll for the average. But Astrid's kind of pulling them ahead on that because everybody else is a minus. So we'll just do a flat roll. We'll see if anybody notices. We're going to call it a normal DC in general. I guess there are some extenuating circumstances. It is nighttime. It's dark. I think we'll just call it a normal DC, and we'll roll 1 for this point. A 12, which is exactly the DC. So the party notices her looking, kind of giving these measured looks, and they're this old woman is more cunning than just your average civilian, we'll say. So Marina's eyes will narrow as well. And she says, "Do you know anything about Gertruda, the daughter of Mary?" And the old woman seems to relax slightly. "Oh no, I don't know anything about that one," she says. And Dendor says, "What do you mean, that one?" And he'll take a step forward. And Morgantha will hold up her hands, and she says, I don't wish any trouble. I'm just here selling my pies. Would you like a pie? They're a delicious meat pastry." And she pulls the cover off of her cart. And the characters look at her. They've already eaten. I don't think they'd be interested in more, and I don't think they really trust Morgantha either. So they're going to decline and say, "If you do learn about the whereabouts of Gertruda, please let us know. We're trying to find her for Mary." And Morgantha will bow. "Of course, young ones. Of course. I'll come find you just as soon as I see the girl." And they'll watch the old woman take her cart and push it, squeaking and bumping along the cobblestones, off into the mist. And Dendor says, "I don't trust that one." And Sidaro says, "We've already got, we don't need to get involved, right? We can just go talk, we can go with Ismark." And Ismark is frowning as he's looking at the woman. And he says, I don't really like the look of that one. And I don't recall seeing her around. So, will the party go follow the woman? Will they go follow Morgantha? Let's see here. They might send Astrid because she's a halfling. She can turn invisible. They don't really have a thief in the group. Let's just find out. Will they follow Morgantha? Ooh, a natural one. Alright, so the group watches her go. They don't trust her. They don't know what she's up to. But kind of grudgingly and not feeling super great about it, they do agree with Sidaros. And they note that Ireena is certainly in trouble from a vampire. And so the group will go ahead, gather themselves, and move on to the Burgomaster's house. And Astrid will cast one last glance behind her at the old woman disappearing into the fog, and she frowns as they move to the mansion. Now, the Burgomaster's mansion. A wary-looking mansion squats behind a rusting iron fence. The iron gates are twisted and torn. The right gate lies cast aside, while the left swings lazily in the wind. The stuttering squeal and clang of the gate repeats with mindless precision. Weeds choke the grounds and press with menace upon the house itself. Yet, against the walls, the growth has been trampled down to create a path all about the domain. Heavy claw markings have stripped the once beautiful finish off the walls. Great black marks tell of the fires that have assailed the mansion. Not a pane nor a shard of glass stands in any window. All the windows are barred with planks, each one marked with the stains of evil omen. The party takes it in, and Dendor looks at Ismark. How long has this attack been going on? And how is it that you're at the tavern just now, drinking your sorrows away? And Ismark says, the attacks have been going on for a little while, but 3 days ago, when my father died, this is when they stopped. And I took a moment to get some strong drink from the tavern and to secure some provisions for Ireena. And he holds up a little sack that he's carrying with him. Let's see here. Astrid will go and look at the basically, and the party will kind of go with. There's a wisdom 12, a normal difficulty, clearing it, an unnatural 20. So Astrid discerns the trampled weeds all around the mansion, as well as scores of wolf paw prints and human prints. So she can see all of this. Astrid will tell the party that it looks like wolves and humans, from what I can tell. Some pretty big shoe marks here. And Ismark nods and says, yes, but there was some of certain intelligence. Strahd has the ability to command zombies and ghouls. I think that both were among those that were trampling around. You can see that they tried to smoke us out a few times, but luckily we had a few wet nights with plenty of rain. But let us get inside. Sidaros looks up at the mansion and says, it feels a little like walking into a lion's den, does it not? And Marina will nudge him forward. Go on. We need you, Sidaros. But don't chicken out on us. And Sidaros says, I wasn't gonna. And they make their way up to the front door. And they knock on the door, and Ismark yells through the fortifications, Ireena, it's me. And they can hear a couple of things shifting and moving, and soon the front door opens up, revealing Ireena Koliana. Let's see here. Let's see. Ireena is described as a striking young woman with auburn hair, and she has a bandage around her neck. Sidaros immediately peeks up, and Ireena says, welcome home, brother. And she kind of laughs at that and shakes her head. Kind of sorrowful, kind of finding humor in the sorrow a little bit. And then she looks at the rest of the group and she says, Who are these? Who are these people that are with you? And Ismark waves at them and introduces them and says, these individuals have promised to help get you away from Barovia. And Ireena immediately stops, frowns at her brother, and she says, You know I will not go until our father is at rest in the holy ground of the church. And we'll leave it there, folks. I appreciate you showing up, being here, and listening. And I'm glad you're here. Next time, We'll cover what Ireena requires of them, and maybe we'll build some characters. I think Ismark and Ireena are good candidates to join the party with fully fleshed out character stats, not just NPC stats. So, I think we'll try that out next video. Thanks again for being here. Thanks for understanding. I hope you enjoyed the wacky, crazy voices. Here in the basement, we're just trying to get better, have goofy fun, try to capture our childhood once again. Anyway, I'll start rambling, let you back your day, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for being here.